everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. This is weekly current affairs for environment section. Now in last 1 week, important 5 topics that we have compiled here, and they are very important for our examination for both prelims and mains examination, and you should learn about these topics because they are expected in our examination. And we have some practice MCQs, UPSC PYQs also I have tried to link here. So let's see the first topic straight away. I will tell you which are the topics first. I will give you idea about all these topics in the first aspect as an index. Okay, so look at the topics: Agastyamalai evictions and Forest Rights Act 2006. So recently the Supreme Court has directed the government officials to evict the encroachers in the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve, and how Forest Rights Act is linked here. So from mains perspective, GS3 paper, it is important. Second topic is Ganga flood basin rules have been relaxed here. The new kind of flood basin, we can say, management is going to be there. The kind of flood basin management is required, especially the construction activities in the flood basin that are going to result in some kind of, we can say that, the floods. And yes, of course, it is going to create a problem related to whenever there are floods will result into problems for people whenever there is construction in the floodplains. Then third is suckermouth catfish in the Ujni Reservoir. Yes, Ujni Reservoir across the Bhima River, which is tributary of Krishna River. It was in news. It is not only affecting the biodiversity of that particular reservoir, but also the fishermen and their livelihood in that particular area. Fourth one is cloud seeding experiment was done in Kazakhstan. So it was in news. Yes, cloud seeding topic that was in 2025 prelims. It was asked very simple question on cloud seeding. In India also, in Delhi, cloud seeding experiments have been done in last year, especially related to pollution aspect in winter season. So that's why we should cover in from both prelims and mains perspective. Also, India's peacock diplomacy at United Nations. Recently, India had basically gifted the peacocks at UN office headquarter. We can say that that's why it is in news. So we'll try to understand what is Indian peacock, and we can say that it's the conservation status. It's, we can say that, some basics fact related to prelims. Okay. So first topic that we will talk about is Agastyamalai evictions. Okay, Agastyamalai evictions, why it was in news. First of all, we'll talk about that aspect. Okay, so Supreme Court has directed a time bound, we can say that, we can time bound evictions of the forest encroachers. You can see here it is mentioning the encroachers and in Agastyamalai landscape. Now in past, UPSC has asked question for Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve, which of the following protected areas are part of Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. So basics of Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve should be also covered from prelims perspective, and we are expecting question on FRA also. How? Because FRA is protecting the rights of tribal people, especially forest dwellers. On the other hand, whenever we talk about the, let's say, protected areas like national parks, tiger reserves, so most of the time the people living in the forest area, they are relocated outside it. So there is, we can say that, some kind of conflict of interest, or we can say that most of the time the tribal people, they protest because their livelihood is dependent on it. They have the rights recognized under the Forest Rights Act. So that's why there is always a conflict. It is in news. So from mains perspective, GS3 paper also, we can expect a question. Okay, so you can see here that forest wildlife conservation versus the rights and livelihoods of forest dwelling communities. This is in, we can say that, conflict here. So let's talk about now regarding Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. Okay, so Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve, I told you the way question was asked. So Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve is located on the border, we can say that, or its area is lying in two states, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Okay, which of the protected areas are, let's say, part of this? Yes, Kalakkad Mudantharai Tiger Reserve is there, Srivilliputhur Wildlife Sanctuary and Meghamalai Tiger Reserve is there. Then along with that, Kanyakumari Wildlife Sanctuary is also there. Okay, Periyar Tiger Reserve, Meghamalai Tiger Reserve. Basically, the landscapes surveyed by, we can say that, this particular committee, and this and centrally empowered committee. That committee is responsible for, we can say that, the final decision, and this is Supreme Court, we can say that, driven or formed committee, especially taking decisions related to environment. Okay, so you should be remembering that this is part of Western Ghats, and this particular biosphere reserve is also included in World Network of Biosphere Reserves. Okay, World Networks of Biosphere Reserve maintained by UNESCO under, we can say that, Man and Biosphere Program. Man and Biosphere Program. So out of 18 biosphere reserve that we have in India, total 13 biosphere reserves have been included in the World Network of Biosphere Reserve in India. So you should remember like this. Now, after understanding the basics of this, what triggered the eviction issue? Okay, what triggered the eviction issue? Let's talk about that. What has happened? Yes, so March 2025, Supreme Court directed the centrally empowered committee to survey the Augusta Malay landscape and identify non-forestry activities. Now, after examining that violations of forest and wildlife laws, basically the extensive encroachment has been documented by this committee. Now the Supreme Court has ordered the time bound eviction and rehabilitation and ecological restoration of this particular landscape. Now here we have to understand the concern because of such continued, let's say, encroachment. It result into forest, let's say, threatening the forest integrity, wildlife habitat. We can say that the tiger landscape is also there. Madumalai Tiger Reserve is there. Ecological restoration. So overall, this particular biosphere reserve is very important in terms of, we can say that, ecosystem conservation. Now such kind of, let's say, encroachments creates a problem for, we can say, overall wildlife habitat, wildlife, let's say, destruction, and wildlife conflicts also happen because of this. More and more encroachment, this result into human wildlife conflicts, so that creates the problem. So there is need of restoring the integrity of this particular habitat. Now what did the CEC, this committee survey, find? Okay, so yes, I told you about the protected areas, and you need not to remember the encroachment area and all these things, but you should remember the areas which are part of Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve protected areas, and there has been encroachment. Now the concern here, you should understand, is related to whether they are illegal encroachers or traditional forest dwellers. That's why the Forest Rights Act comes into the picture. Now Supreme Court major directions, what they have said. So Supreme Court has said that there should be time bound eviction. Okay, time bound eviction is directed, then rehabilitation of those which are evicted, we can say that, then prevent re-encroachment, then thereafter action against the officials who are basically responsible for lapse lapse in terms of, we can say that, officials actions, then restrictions, no new non-forestry activities should be allowed, legal monitoring should be done, and action against the government employees. Okay, so these have been the directions. Now this will help in, we can say that, protecting that particular habitat. Now basics of Forest Rights Act, right? Forest Rights Act's basics. So you should be preparing that from the prelims perspective. Also, there was one question in prelims long, we can say 4 or 5 years back. There was question related to that Forest Rights Act is implemented under which ministry? Ministry of Tribal Affairs. You should know this. Okay, Ministry of Tribal Affairs implements the Forest Rights Act. Now what is the objective? Whatever the historical injustice has been done to the tribal communities, so that, we can say that, ensuring different rights of tribal communities and forest dwellers. The cutoff date is 13 December 2005. Now who can claim the rights? Forest dwelling scheduled tribes as well as other traditional forest dwellers, right? So individual forest rights are recognized, second community rights are recognized, third rights over the minor forest produce, fourth community forest reserve right, resource rights. Okay, so community rights as as well as individual rights are, we can say, protected. Then habitat related customary rights are also there, and rights connected to, we can say, sustainable forest use and conservation. So three things you have to remember: individual forest rights, second community rights, and third rights over minor forest produce. These rights are very important and they are recognized. Now how this FRA is relevant here, we should understand that this eviction that is there, this is basically, FRA is providing the legal safeguard against the illegal eviction of the tribal people, forest dwellers. How it is providing? Two sections you have to remember. Okay, section 4 clause 5, protection against eviction. Okay, so forest dwelling and scheduled tribes and traditional forest dwellers cannot be evicted and removed from the forest land under the occupation until the recognition and we can say that verification procedure is complete. So here due process must be ensured before the eviction, and if there are, let's say, after verification it is found that it is legal and we can say that, then they cannot be evicted. If it is illegal, then we can say that there should be the eviction. Now section 4 clause 2 talks about critical wildlife habitat. They have asked question on this critical wildlife habitat in prelims examination. It is part of FRA and not Wildlife Protection Act. You should remember this. Okay, critical wildlife habitat. So relocation from the critical wildlife habitat requires statutory safeguards. Recognition of rights must be completed before relocation. Free and informed consent of Gram Sabha is mandatory safeguard under this. So here we should understand that conservation with procedural justice is, we can say that, ensured under FRA. Now regarding the Agastya Malai, let's say evictions that are happening, so whatever the evictions that are happening, what should be the balance here? Whatever the forest rights and wildlife conservation are there, or forest conservation and wildlife conservation is there, it should be balanced with the rights and livelihoods of forest dwelling communities. So here FRA should be balanced with whatever the forest conservation Act is there, Forest Conservation Act is there, 1980 is there, Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is there. So this should be balanced with this one. Way forward, we can say that time bound verification of the rights, claims of the forest dwellers. Then rights first approach should be ensured. Then humane rehabilitation of those people. Adequate compensation should be also ensured, and ecological restoration and participatory governance. The role of Gram Sabha is also very important here. Okay, so this is, we can say that from mains perspective this topic is important. Then next topic, again mostly from mains perspective, we can say that center relaxes the construction rules along Ganga floodplains. Yes, why it is relevant? Because Ganga river and its integrity is very important aspect, and floodplains concept. Yes, floodplains are, we can say that, that area of the river basin, we can say that, which is, we can say that, flooded annually, naturally, we can say that. And that's why we should ensure, what is in news, we can say River Ganga Rejuvenation Protection and Management Authorities Order to 2026, it amends to 2016 framework of this. Okay, now Environment Protection Act provides for such kind of rules and regulations and orders, we can say 1986 Environment Protection Act. Okay, so what are the major changes? What was the earlier approach? Ganga banks plus floodplains, construction free zones were declared. Now new approach divides this in three parts. We'll see in detail about this one. Okay, so what are the three, let's say, but before that, the basics aspect. Basics is that what is floodplain? Okay, what is floodplain? We should understand that, right? Basics. Yes, it is a low lying adjoining area of river that is periodically inundated by river when overflows its, let's say, banks. So I told you that it is like annually the Ganga river or its, let's say, Himalayan rivers, they are overflowing, and it is an integral part of river's natural hydrological system. So new alluvium and old alluvium, we can say that, that is deposited, overflowing is there. So ecological functions: river flooding, water spreads over the floodplains, temporary storage of flood water, and reduce flood intensity. That is the role of floodplains, we can say that. And also supports the groundwater recharge, nutrient recycling, biodiversity, and wetlands. So especially we can say that here the oxbow lakes. Oxbow lakes are created. Many of these oxbow lakes are, we can say that, recently declared as conservation reserves, as well as we can say that wetlands of international importance as Ramsar sites. Okay, like Kabartal Lake is there. Okay, Ramsar sites are declared oxbow lakes. So here basically they are located in floodplains of Ganga and its tributaries. Now why to protect them? Yes, so unregulated construction will lead to concretization, reduce infiltration, overflow will be there, greater surface runoff, increase, let's say, flood vulnerability, and damage to riverine ecology also. So floodplains are natural ecological buffers against the floods, and that's why we need to protect them against the illegal construction activities. Now, we can say that classification. What is that new classification? New three-zone floodplain classification under the revised order, we can say that. So yes, what it is talking, it is saying that Yes, active floodplain, first of all, it will be, we can say that at least flooding at least once in every 5 years. So that we'll call it as active floodplain. Then regulatory zone, once in 5 to 25 years the flooding happens, and warning zone, once in every 25 to 100 years flooding happens. So they are, we can say that, relatively lower frequency, and construction may be permitted in this zone subject to required approval. Here in this part, moderate risk zone as the construction can be considered but requires prescribed regulatory clearances. Now here in this part, active flood zone, we can say strict restrictions on construction, limited exceptions for temporary structures only. So here highest risk is involved, here moderate risk is involved, and relatively lower risk is involved. Now such kind of classification is, we can say that, based on scientific understanding. We can say that objective decision making can be done. So this is the way construction activities will be allowed now in the floodplain areas of Ganga river. Okay, now what are the, let's say, broader changes? What exactly has changed, we can say that. So exactly 2016 framework was broader in terms of river Ganga, its banks, and floodplain. So you can see that directly the construction free approach, broader construction free approach was ensured. Now here the construction is allowed, and basically it will be allowed after certain kind of approvals. So scientifically differentiated zones are created. So this is more scientific approach, we can say that. This is the major difference. Then environmental concerns. What are the environmental concerns here? Yes, environmental concerns are that because of, let's say, construction activity, there can be illegal construction activities and illegal encroachment act. Then groundwater recharge will be stopped because of construction activities, it will decline, and flood vulnerability will increase because of greater runoff, or like concretization, tar roads, and all these things. Then river ecology will be affected, especially the birds, and we can say that the wetlands, they will be getting affected. Climate change, yes, historically flood frequencies may become less reliable due to extreme rainfall, changing flood patterns, and because of that construction activities should not be allowed in the floodplains. It should be, we can say that, restricted. So what should be the way forward? Yes, way forward is, we can say that, just a moment. Yes, the way forward should be scientific demarcation. Yes, already we can say that through this new order, scientific demarcation is being done. Protecting active floodplain, here no kind of construction, permanent construction should be allowed. Then climate response zoning, responsive zoning should be there. So climate change is happening, so according to the changes in the rainfall pattern, that zoning should be modified. Strict approval mechanism should be there. Restore the natural floodplains, integrated river basin management should be followed. So all these are, we can say that, scientifically based way forward or measures that should be followed in dealing with floodplains. Okay, now moving on to next topic. Yes, recently it was in news, sucker mouth catfish. Why it was in news? It has created lot of problems where in Ujni Dam in Maharashtra. Okay, Ujni Dam is across Bhima River. We'll talk about the basics of that dam also. But about this suckerfish, it is basically invasive species. Invasive species is problematic because it results in decline in biodiversity. Now, why it is concerned? All these things introduced through aquarium trade, it escaped and then it entered, we can say that, in that water body, and now it is invasive. It is threatening all the freshwater biodiversity of that particular reservoir. Okay, so sucker mouth catfish, key prelims facts you should know. Right, prelims में आपको क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है कि which of the following are the invasive species, right? So there they will mention the sucker mouth catfish. So it looks like this, and it is the native of Amazon River basin, Amazon River. Okay, so common name helicopter fish also, helicopter fish, right? Then we can say native South America, Amazon River basin. Now, how it reached India? Yes, through, we can say, the ornamental aquarium fish, transported through, we can say, global aquarium trade, escaped, we can say, into the natural water bodies and enter into freshwater ecosystems. So it is now increased to invasive population. Now, why it is, we can say that, invasive, highly invasive? Let's try to understand that. Yes, invasive species are problematic to native species, and they destroy the complete habitat. You can see that it is yes, it has accessory breathing organs that creates we can say make them easily adaptable to that particular ecosystem. Look at this. Okay, that it allows survival in low oxygen waters also, even on the land for several hours. You can understand how they are invasive because of this reason. High environmental tolerance it is created because of this breathing organ. Then opportunistic feeding is there, feeds on algae, plant, invertebrates, small fish, as well as their fish eggs. So it is we can say that both let's say omnivorous, we can say that it is eating the plants, algae, as well as fish eggs. Highly adaptable, we can say that in terms of broad diet and high tolerance in terms of we can say low oxygen level environment. That's why it becomes invasive. Now in that particular we can say that area, it has created lot of problems. It has resulted into decline in we can say that local fish that is there. Okay, so competition created, then habitat modification and damage to the structures of that region, we can say reservoirs also. So it is it has resulted into decline in livelihood for local fishermen also. That has created problem. Why? Because in that particular dam, now whatever the fish that is found, majority of the fish is sucker fish, and this particular fish is not eatable, not edible. Try to understand. आप बोलेंगे कि ये भी खा सकते हैं ना सर, it is not edible. ठीक है, तो ये problem है. And the local fish that were edible, now their amount has their number has declined, so it is affecting the livelihood of the people. Now, regarding that particular dam, which can be asked in the prelims examination, right? Rivers, the reservoirs, and dams. So, this Ujni Dam is basically where it is located in Maharashtra, Solapur district, across Bhima River and Krishna River. It's tributary of Krishna River. They originate in, we can say that near Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani in Maharashtra. Okay, Mahabaleshwar. Okay, then yes, it is a multi-purpose project, reservoir, irrigation, drinking water, agriculture, fisheries, and flood management. We can say that. Okay, so now this particular fish species has created problem. That's why it is in news. And other environmental concerns like pollution is there in the upstream catchment area, agriculture runoff, and all these things. Okay, so this is the basics about we can say that Ujni Dam. Now we can solve this MCQ here with reference to suckermouth catfish. Practice MCQ. What should be answer to this? You can give answer in the comment box. Okay, with reference to suckermouth catfish, we have to see the statements. It is native to, we can say that, South America and associated with Amazon River. So just now we said that yes, it is correct. We can say that. Then we can, it is introduced in India primarily through ornamental trade. That is also correct. Obligate herbivore, it is saying no, it is omnivore. We can say that because it is feeding on the fish egg also. Ability to tolerate adverse environmental conditions, yes, that is there. So 1 to 4, that is B is the correct answer about this. Then there is, let's say, new topic in news, that is cloud seeding. I will tell you the question also. The last year prelims, there was question related to which of the following let's say chemicals or is used for cloud seeding. That was the basic question asked in the prelims examination. Now it was in news because Kazakhstan has used the cloud seeding experiment to deal with its severe drought conditions in the Central Asian country. Now it has, let's say, why it is in news. Yes, this is in news. Kazakhstan, yes, UAE's meteorological center collaboration was done, and let's say this particular experiment was done. Now what is cloud seeding? The basics of cloud seeding you should know. Okay, you should understand that cloud seeding does not create the clouds itself. Basically whatever the clouds are there is a cloud modification is done. Basic principle, microscopic particles. Which kind of particles? Yes, so silver iodide is there, right, or potassium chloride is there. So those salts are spread and they act as a condensation nuclei, and therefore whatever the clouds are, their size can be increased, and now there can be more let's say chances of precipitation. So that's why rainfall may happen. So not necessarily that rainfall will happen. You should remember this. This is cloud seeding mechanism. Now in this particular Kazakhstan, let's say what kind of cloud seeding material was used? It was sodium chloride and potassium chloride. This was the question directly in prelims examination. Okay, you should remember this. Okay, now what were the delivery methods used? Yes, cloud seeding, rockets launch and release articles, aircraft used to spray the saline solution directly into the clouds. Okay, now there are problems we will see that, but before that the basics. Yes, major cloud seeding agents, I told you silver iodide is there, then dry ice can be also used, and hygroscopic salts like sodium chloride is there, potassium chloride is there. Okay, so this was asked in the prelims examination, major cloud seeding agents. All right, now why Kazakhstan experimenting with cloud seeding? Because the country is facing the drought condition. So you can give that example of climate change also, how it is creating drought in that particular area. Other Central Asian countries are also facing drought like conditions, rising temperatures, greater evaporation that is resulting into reduced soil moisture, prolonged drought and agriculture stress. So it will result into the problem of food security also in that country, problem of food security, water security, right? So this way, then cloud seeding, potential versus limitations. Yes, it is not a silver bullet. You should understand that it has potential, but in certain conditions only, and certain meteorological conditions are required. Then major limitations we should see. So suitable clouds are essential. No cloud, no seeding can happen, no rain will happen. Result in uncertain or difficult in quantity, how much rainfall actually can be there because of seeding. Effects are local and short lived. Then we can say that precipitation enhancement, it's only about 15 to 20%. Large scale operations can be expensive also, cost is involved, strongly dependent on atmospheric conditions, so risk of failure is high. So cloud seeding does not create clouds, just now we talked about that, and that's why its potential is limited. And cloud seeding, we can say that it is creating environmental and geopolitical debate also. Environmental debate concerns over chemical accumulation. So whatever the chemicals as an agent we are spreading there for cloud seeding, their accumulation may happen. We don't know its impact on human health. Potential effects on ecosystems can happen. Uncertainty about the long term impacts, and scientific evidence on the effectiveness is limited all over the world. There are also geopolitical dimensions. Recently, Kyrgyzstan as a country has said that it is basically whatever the moisture they are trapping. It can be called as simply cloud piracy. Okay, it can be called as cloud piracy also. So we should understand that it is local clouds and short lived, do not alter the large scale air movement and climate processes. That is fine, but the countries are having, we can say that, their own geopolitical debate. Okay, so this is the way we should understand. It is emerging governance question, and we can say geopolitical debate is also there. So from IR perspective also it is important. Then yes, it is not a silver bullet, and we should talk about that. There should be some additional mechanisms or additional measures should be undertaken. What are they? Yes, along with cloud seeding, drip irrigation for agriculture, repair of irrigation canals, then reduction of water leakage, efficient crop planning, and climate resilient agriculture. So this is the way other methods are, we can say, required along with this. Okay, so challenges part we have already talked. So this particular cloud seeding mechanism is, we can say that, important from prelims as well as mains perspective. It is not, we can say that, long term solution. Along with cloud seeding, some kind of, let's say, sustainable measures in terms of irrigation, drip irrigation or sprinkler irrigation, and climate resilient varieties of crops should be developed to deal with such kind of, we can say that, drought conditions that may happen, especially because of climate change. Now this was the question that was asked in UPSC prelims. Okay, artificial way of causing rainfall to reduce air pollution makes use of. Okay, so we can see that directly the answer is there, silver iodide is there, potassium iodide is also there. Okay, so yes, you may get confused because the similar terminologies are there. Okay, similar terminologies can be seen in like silver iodide, potassium nitrate is also there. Then we can see that silver nitrate and potassium chloride. So don't get confused. Silver iodide is always there. Okay, and potassium iodide and potassium chloride you should remember. Sodium chloride you should remember. Okay, so this is the way we should talk. And lastly, the important topic is India's peacock diplomacy. Yes, recently our government or India has gifted 5 peacocks to United Nations office in Geneva. That's why it was in news. Okay, so 5 peacocks are gifted. These birds have been housed in Ariana Park this surrounding the palace, basically outside that office. The group consists of 4 blue peafalls and 1 white feathered male. We'll talk about that in prelims perspective also. And peacock diplomacy, yes, it combines the cultural symbolism, biodiversity as well as diplomacy. So from IAS perspective also, international relations mains exam. So what is this peacock diplomacy? Yes, let's talk about that briefly. Yes, India's national bird, yes, that's why we can say it is important. India's national bird, gifted to international institution, represent India's natural and cultural heritage, creates goodwill and cultural visibility. Okay, so peacock gifted to India office symbolizes our rich biodiversity and enduring commitment to global harmony. Okay, along with that significance, you should know similar concept. China uses panda diplomacy. That's why it can be used in your answers also. Like it is basically soft power. It reflects our cultural heritage. We can say that biodiversity and national symbol. So it is a kind of soft power. Now regarding that particular peafalls that we have given peacocks, so regarding basics of that, it can be asked in prelims examination. ठीक है, prelims में पूछा जा सकता है about this Indian peafowl. Okay, so what are the prelims facts about this? Yes, so it is blue peafowl, commonly called as Indian peacock. Okay, native to Indian subcontinent. Sexual dimorphism is there. Male peacock, brilliant blue plumage and long ornamental, let's say, train is there, and courtship display is there. Then female peahen, dull brown. You can see the photographs. Okay, this is female and this is male. Okay, male is, we can say that here, showing the courtship display whenever, let's say, such, let's say peacock is there, especially during monsoon time period, during rainfall, just before the rainfall, such kind of, let's say, courtship is displayed by the male peacock. Habitat: open forest and scrubland, agricultural areas, human dominated landscapes. Also behavior: primarily ground dwelling but generally roost on the trees. Omnivorous, okay, feeds on seeds, insects, also small animals also. So you should remember like that. It is national bird of India. Okay, national bird of India, native to Indian subcontinent. Okay, now regarding conservation status, you should know that the conservation status, IUCN status, is least concern, also protected under Wildlife Protection Act. Different, we can say that. Then what are the schedules of Wildlife Protection Act? Then habitat degradation is a major threat. Then poaching and illegal hunting for feathers, we can say that it is banned in India. Illegal trade is there, because of that also they are poached. And then human wildlife conflict, they die because of such accidents also. Then regarding the 5 peacock species that are, let's say, animals that have been gifted, 4 among them are blue in color and 1 in white in color. So that's why we should understand from prelims perspective leucism. What is leucism and albinism? Okay, found in all animals including human. Leucism is genetic condition causing partial and complete reduction in pigmentation. It produces pale and white coloration. It does not necessarily affect the eye pigmentation. But in albinism, it is absence or reduction of melanin altogether. Affects pigmentation throughout the body, and eyes color are all appear, we can say, pale or red color. This is the difference between albinism and leucism. Many a times it is, we can say that, genetically, we can say, condition, hereditary condition, albinism. You should remember this for prelims examination. Now finally, what should be answer to this particular question, practice question? Indian peafowl, yes, it is native to Indian subcontinent. This is correct. Male and female exhibit marked sexual dimorphism. That is also true. It is primarily ground dwelling, but yes, generally roast on the trees. That is also true in terms of characteristics. And it is classified as endangered species. Now this is incorrect, right? It is classified as least concern. Now first 3 are correct, 1, 2, 3, that is B is the correct answer. Okay, so these are the important topics for our, we can say, prelims and mains examination for environment section. So keep following these sessions on the weekly basis. We are providing all the subject wise compilation of important topics. These sessions are very important. I want you, all of you, to make notes out of it, solve these practice MCQs, link with your previous year questions, so that you get the idea that what type of, let's say, prelims questions are being asked from the current affairs, because current affairs is very bulky and students are finding is very difficult for environment section. So be limited to your resources that you are following and keep revising them again and again, then only it will be helpful. Okay, let us stop there. Thank you.